President Trump addressed concerns about our involvement in the Mideast. Watch this.
I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time, and I think they were a few weeks away from having one, and they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it. Now it was a fair deal, and now it's a harder thing to sign. You know, it's a lot of water over the dam, but you know, it's very. I say it very simply: Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Too much devastation, and they'd use it. You know, I believe they'd use it.
Well, look who's here now. Congressman Darrell Issa, Republican from California, who has gracefully agreed to be here in New York with us. Can the Iranians be trusted to make a nuclear deal at this point?
Absolutely. They can be trusted to sign a deal, just not to keep their promise. That's the reality since 1979, when the late Jimmy Carter began negotiating, and they kept pretending that they weren't actually holding our embassy hostage, but it was somehow another group. That group has been in charge of this country for all these decades, and that group will sign or say anything, but they never keep their promise.
But President Trump would never let him get away with that, because any deal, he wants surrender. That's what he wants. And if they don't get that, what happens?
Well, that's the whole point, is that at this point, either we bomb that facility or they agree to, and we oversee basically the material coming out of that hole.
So I mean, if they're not going to put out an agreement to get rid of their nukes, then we've got to go and bomb the place.
We have to prevent it. And remember, we also have to prevent the second part, which I think both Israel and the U.S. have suffered greatly, and that is their support of terrorism around the world. They're supplying non-nuclear weapons that have killed Americans, that have killed people around the world. That has to go away, too. And that's a big part of what Israel has been doing for the last week or so, is diminishing their ability to restock the missiles that have fired down on Israel for now decades.
Khomeini's got to go, and somebody else has to emerge who is capable of agreeing with Trump to get rid of the nukes.
We've always said that don't want regime change, but we have to admit we want change in the regime.
Sure.
So that means there has to be a change in the people that have for decades said anything and then ultimately continued their terrorist activity and their quest for nuclear weapons since 1980.
So you support the use of bunker-busting bombs. You're a military guy. Can you tell us, would they work?
There is no carrot if there isn't a stick. The president has offered a carrot. He's offered to continue negotiations. He's offered to give them an out in which all activities end as far as people dying. But the stick has to be there to do it. And let's remember, Ronald Reagan sunk a couple of their ships to stop their bad activity. Other presidents have taken similar action. This is not a matter of war. This is a matter of a targeted strike on behalf of ourselves and an ally, if it happens. I don't want to have those bunker busters used, because I don't want to have all that material down in a hole, blown up, and down there for 10,000 years. But the decision is now in Iran's hands. They have to decide, because that stick is there, and I expect President Trump to keep that stick there while he negotiates to try to bring this to an end.
Change of subject for a second, Congressman. Your colleague, Mike Lawler, Republican, New York, he says he will not accept 1 penny less than the $40,000 SALT cap, not a penny less than $40,000. Now, Republicans in California desperately want a high SALT cap. I mean, you want you want as much as you can get.
We want the old system back, to be honest.
You'd like it back.
As do you,
Yes,
Stuart.
I do.
You're a good economist and in your own way a good businessman. You darn well want it back. But what Mike's doing is a page out of President Trump's book. You know, he would have accepted 30. We all knew that. That was kind of the ask. He went to 40 and got it. He went to the Senate. They come back at 10. He's got to stay and say not a penny less than 40. But when we get in a room and we're trying to do the most important thing, which is not have a snapback of trillions of dollars of tax increases, we have to balance that. Will we get to 40? I would almost bet that we'll get to 20 or 30. We're not going to end up at 10. And if we don't end up at 40, the overall size of the package has to be good for America, good for New York, good for California. But tax increases of the size we'll get if we do nothing, absolutely bad for America.
Good luck with the salt thing. I'm on your side. Congressman, thanks for joining us. We appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Stuart.